for everyone for coming to our presidential debate for the 2018-2019 academic year. And thank you for our candidate teams for showing up today for a great time. So the format of today's debate is going to be in 5 parts. We're going to start with opening statements where each team will have about 5 minutes. And then after that, we're going to have 2 rounds separated by a break in between for food, water, bathroom, etc. In each of the main question rounds, we will have 4 or 5 questions, and there will be a time limit of 2 minutes on each question. Then the 4th section will be open questions for the audience here. So if you have any burning questions you want to ask your candidate teams, go ahead during that time. And then we'll end with closing statements. Alrighty. So we're going to start with our opening statements right now. We'll have 5 minutes, and we're going to start with Raid and Hubeda. Put it on the back. There's a switch. Turn it up. Or,
yeah. Okay, I'm going to begin with my journey. I think it's important to center myself in the work that I've been doing. So my first time stepping onto Hamlin's campus was during Piper Preview, which means I never toured this campus. I never got to feel exactly what Hamlin's campus was about. But instantaneously, I could feel Hamlin's value of community, service, leadership, scholarship, and diversity radiating through the space. On the first day of school, I felt it to the professors I saw, the students I met, the staff, the vibrant NSMs, the RAs. Like I could feel the dedication of everyone on campus. However, throughout the years, I witnessed the community in some ways disconnect with Hamlin's campus and its mission. And I've seen students who feel that they aren't represented or visible throughout our campus. And that truly leaves me heartbroken, considering that I found my community and I didn't feel that way. So because of this, I recognize the need to ensure that students were being supported so that they can be able to be given the space and the capacity to truly reach their full potential. With this, as president, I intend on truly developing and fostering close student alliances, utilizing student organizations to ensure that students are able to truly take the lead. I want to build a student alliance that will be able to speak to the power that we have as campus and as a community, because I believe that when we all work together, we're able to actually live up to our mission. That's why Obeda and I will be running on our campaign, not on what we can do for you, but on what we can do for us. Because we are only as strong, because we say this because we are only as strong as each other, and it is critical that we stand as a united front as a community. I will do this directly by engaging with students and making sure that that information is authentically translated between students and HUSC, as well as HUSC and administration. Transparency doesn't mean just hosting general assemblies and simply relaying information that has been delegated to HUSC, but it means including students in this process and centering students' wisdom and capability as well. I want to end my speech with a quote that I live my life by, which is, "We all do better when we all do better." This quote was by Paul Wellstone, former U.S. Senator from Minnesota. It truly embodies the statement and the mission statement of Obeda and I's campaign. And we hope that with this sentiment, we're able to foster these relationships to make Hamlin a thriving campus built and sustained through us, students at the center and in missions in alliance.
all right, now we will be moving on to Liam and Ikram for their opening statement.
How do you turn it on? Oh.
Ew.
My bad. I'm not running to be like the HUSC tech chair or anything, so. But I'm Liam. I'm running to be HUSC president, and I'm a sophomore here at Hamlin. And I thought my whole life I was going to go to the U of M, and I was certain of it. And I went to, my family had season tickets to go for men's basketball. And I just thought that my whole life until I finally got down to it. And I ended up coming to Hamlin because I realized, why do I want to go to the U? I'd rather go to a place like my high school in Edison and Minneapolis, where you can get to know a lot of people and not just be some number or some person. And I think that that's why a lot of people come to Hamlin, because they can be more than just some number, some test score, some person paying tuition. And I think that really resonates with me and resonates with Ikram too, and I think that's a lot of why we're running, is because we want to try to help out those people and help people become involved and engaged and heard. And like Ray said, a lot of people aren't connected with HUSC, and that's partly like we all have to do better in HUSC. And Ikram and I have been on the exec board this last year, and we were both reps the year before, and we've been able to hear those concerns, and now we feel being president and vice president would give us the platform to really address them. And you know, some of the ways we want to do that is by reaching out more to the student body, hosting forums or town halls around specific ideas or issues coming up on campus, and trying to have general assemblies not just in GLC but maybe outside, maybe in Anderson, just trying to find new ways to reach out to people. And you know, we require reps to do a town hall every month. And on the exec board, we do have to do 3 office hours a week, but our office is up on the 3rd floor of Anderson in the corner. You know, why shouldn't we as exec board people be required to go out to people? You know, it's not students' job to come find us, it's our job to go and meet their needs and represent them. So thank you all for coming. It's really kind of humbling to see everyone here and to be able to run, even as a candidate. I think it means a lot to both of us, and we take our roles seriously of representing students and being students' voices, and in a time where our country is kind of questioning our own elections and our free elections, it's good to be able to have real, free, vibrant elections with so many candidates running, unlike last year where certain page got to be off by themselves. But, so thank you all for coming, and looking forward to the debate.
Okay, it's on? Yeah? Okay, cool. I just want to thank everyone for being here again. To echo what the other candidates said, it really is important to have all of you here to participate in the democratic process. We do have 3 incredible teams. You know, I would vote for them if I could, and not myself, but I will be voting for myself. Anyway, this is something that Ray and I have been working and planning for a while. We started working on this since the start of last semester. We really, you know, developed our friendship. We really sat down and started talking to each other. And while we were doing that, people came up to us and they said, "Hey, what do you guys like? You know, why are you sitting together?" You know, they knew we were friends, but they kind of got, you know, a little bit of suspicious rumors and stuff like that. So they said, you know, would you consider running for HUSC, or is that what you're doing? Is that like, is there some planning going on? Specifically, Amina came up to us and said that. And so we really started to think about that. And after a while, we came together and we developed a background for why we're running. We really, you know, sat down and came up with some solid ideas and some solid emotions and really, you know, genuine reasons for wanting to have this platform. So I'll let Ray speak more on that.
And it was really, I think it was when we came together, we realized how many ideas we had. Both on our own, we had a lot of different thoughts around campus. You know, a drinking fountain here, or, you know, this administrative person could do better here, all these different things. But when we came together as a collaborative effort, we really thought of a lot of the issues that we saw around campus. So it was kind of a beautiful thing. You know, we have a lot of key points that we think are important. We think food justice is a very important issue around campus that goes beyond, you know, inconvenience of options at the dining hall and dining service hours, but, you know, an overwhelming amount of students on this campus face food insecurity, which is very, very disheartening. We think diversity initiatives are very important around campus. We think accessibility, obviously, for those in the Board of Elected Representatives, that's been an issue we've talked about a lot already, and just general inaccessibility around campus, which is something that we really want to improve upon. You know, and we understand that there are all these issues around campus, a lot of things that we want to improve upon, but overall, what brought us together is this love of the campus, you know, and love and want to improve it and make it better. And I think that's why we're all here tonight as well. So, you know, we all have the same goal. We all want to make Hamlin better, so I'm just excited to see how we do it.
Thank you, candidates. Now I'd like to invite up our current HUSC President, Sarah Anthony, for our first round of questions.
Hello everyone, thank you again for coming. I want to start off with asking a question to Rai, and then it'll go to Liam and Emily. We'll kind of switch up the order to make sure everyone has a chance talking first, second, third. So the first question is, how do you hope to positively impact the Hamlin community through the position of president and also vice president? We've all talked about that's why we're here, but how do you want to impact Hamlin positively? And then we can start off with Wright and Nevaeh.
All right, so kind of like I mentioned in my opening statement, when I think about making Hamlin a better place, I think about reaching out to students and their orgs and making sure that they're funded. I think about reaching out to students and honestly just asking, like, what can we as HUSC do to make us better, which is our, the quote that we're kind of guiding our campaign by. What can we do for us? And things, the way some ideas that we had was to make HUSC GA much more accessible, kind of like my fellow candidates also mentioned, whether it be having it in Anderson or even having suggestion boxes in Anderson that students can put in suggestions throughout their day or throughout their weeks and see like concerns that they have, and really making myself as well as Oveda accessible and visible on campus. We don't want to be leaders that aren't present, so students don't feel that they have access to HUSC as well as administration. So in that way, we really like to emphasize student accessibility and building an alliance. I see student orgs doing, they have their own interests, but I think it's really important to stand as a united front so we can truly live up to our Hamlin's mission of being a community and diversity and service and leadership and all those good things. So I just want to be able to foster those relationships and really put myself in a place where I can understand where these student orgs are coming from, because I do not represent everyone, and I recognize that, and I'm open to learning more in order to create a space for everyone that is accessible.
Thank you. Next, we'll bring it over to Liam Nickel.
Yeah, so going along with what Brian was saying, earlier in the semester we had suggestion boxes in Anderson in the second floor and stuff, and obviously you get some suggestions, but it's about more than just getting the suggestions. We have to follow up and act on them, and so I think that's what we'll try to do is, it's being responsive to hearing what students need and then like figuring out how to put a plan in place to make that better. There's a lot of different issues at Hamlin, like just today, as the secretary, I set up President Miller's office hours, and I got an email that she was going to have to cancel her office hours in 2 days. And that was the last 2 months she's had to cancel her office hours. So I think that's just one example of how can we reach out and have a better relationship with the administration to make them more accessible, along with making us accessible. And I think, everyone can have a more positive experience if they're, knowing what's going on or interacting or feeling like that at some point their voice gets up to those making the decisions, whether it be us, whether it be the president or the administration. And so I think that's another big way we can positively impact, is instead of students just feeling like there's no way that anything they care about can happen or anything that they think is wrong can be done, is if we start acting on what they want. And we've tried some different platforms, like the recently started HUSC newsletter as a way to let people know what we're doing and get input. We've trying to work more on getting the HUSC website anonymous forum for students to talk and ask questions and give complaints. So I think we need to look more into those things and reaching out to students and hearing what they have to say, because at the end of the day, we're elected by them and we represent them. So I think that's how we can more positively impact them.
Thank you. And then Emily and Bryce.
So Ray and I actually strategically had a conversation about this among all of those conversations that we had back in the fall, where we talked about how I am more of a serious person than Ray, as some of you may know, and how I may do better in a boardroom among trustees or people who control the money of the university, and how I can really, express students' opinions in a way that adults are going to want to hear it, quote unquote, and get stuff done, and really take students' voices to a place where they're going to be heard by the people who manipulate or utilize, control the money, the resources, the time, and all the aspects of Hamlin. So in one aspect, I really will bring that professionalism, the ability to communicate in meetings, advising and consulting as the student's voice in those meetings, and then really trying to have the trustees be present and communicate with the students so that there's not so much disconnect. I mean, that's something that Ray talked about, is the disconnect. But for example, there's probably a lot of you who didn't know that the trustees control the money. I recently myself learned that last semester. So it's new news. But anyway, also, the president makes a lot of speeches. There's large opportunity to change the culture of Hamlin by what you say. Words do have meaning and they do have power. So, you know, not to say this in one aspect, representation is really important. So with the identity that I have at the podium and the ability to speak what's on my mind in a way that represents the students' bodies and as well influence the culture of the campus, I think that's really important and something I'll bring to it. Lastly, Ray and I really are a team. So, you know, we culminated all of our answers together. You'll see that when y'all vote in our answers, our little paragraphs and whatnot. But we really do want to go off of each other and not just have it be me, not just have it be me be the president, but have us be we together.
Thank you. Time. All right, so this position can be really hard. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of challenges. You're gonna fail and you're gonna struggle. So what challenges do you expect to encounter in this position and how are you going to handle them? We'll start with Liam, then Emily, and then go to Rowdy. So Liam and Ingram, go ahead.
This is the president or both?
Both president, vice president, as a team, what challenges are you gonna have if you were in this position?
I can definitely only speak of this individually, even though the majority of my thoughts and stuff are with Liam, as we are a team. But in any leadership position, you are not going to please everyone, and I am a pleaser. I'm always trying to strive to make sure that everyone feels included, and if that means bringing myself down so that others feel better, I'm always up for that. Though it may not be positive, it's something that I sometimes try my best to remember, is that I'm not going to be capable of pleasing everyone. And when I find out that I did something that someone else didn't feel comfortable with, or I didn't handle a situation the way a specific person would have handled it themselves, that always upsets me, because it always makes me think, wow, I really should have took that into consideration. But at the end of the day, I also have to remember I can only be as sensitive as possible. I can only know people's experiences to the level in which they provide me. So going into every experience that I am capable of going into and bringing to the table my feelings and being as transparent as possible and sharing with people that I don't know everything. I'm not going to be the greatest vice president there's ever been, but I am capable of listening. I am capable of hearing people out, and I understand that at the end of the day, maybe the majority may not be as happy with the decision, but as long as everyone feels at least comfortable is what I strive to be. And if Liam like to add on his part, but individually, that's what I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, you know, when you're as comfortable with each other and you can bounce ideas off each other, that just makes the relationship better. And Ikram and I, you know, worked on the exec board the last year and got to know each other really well, and especially these last couple months, we see each other all the time. And so I think that, you know, bouncing ideas off each other and having someone to keep you in check and keep you accountable will be good, and we have that. And also, if you're as transparent as possible with people, even if you do something that they don't necessarily agree with, if they can understand why you did it or where you're coming from, that's always better. So.
Thank you. Then we'll go over to Emily and Ray.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, speaking for the both of us here, one of the first big challenges that we'll encounter is, of course, backlash, you know. And like you guys said, the main solution to that is transparency. Communication with the student body, letting them understand our decisions that we're making and why we're making them. It's very, very important. I think the second big challenge we're gonna encounter is spreading the word. You know, doing this campaigning, walking around, asking people what their concerns are, telling them about HUSC, the number one thing we hear is, what actually is HUSC? What do you guys really do? And it provides an amazing opportunity to tell them. I loved that. So I think a big challenge and a big reason that inspired us to run was the lack of knowledge about what Student Congress is on campus. And so spreading the word about that, letting people understand, that's going to be very important and also a challenge along the way. And then third, both Emily and I are very busy right now. We have a lot going on. Emily herself is a two-sport athlete right now. And if elected to these positions, we obviously have to cut back a lot on our commitments in life. And that's a challenge that I know we both accepted. So I think cutting back, but of course, taking on more in HUSC will be a challenge, but it's something that we can accomplish.
Thank you. And then finally, Rai and Ubea.
I really, can I hear me? Actually, I don't like mics. Y'all can hear me though. I really like that you phrased the question with challenge, because I think when it's a challenge, you can overcome it, right? And so I would like to say that I really like your point about communication. That is one of the biggest things that we struggle with in this campus. And we all talk about it's a small school, but sometimes it's hard to walk from Anderson to class. That's just what it is. And so if information doesn't flow. But a part of our platform is community and forming alliance. So once we do that, information flows because everyone is a part of the conversation. And so no one is lacking anything. We've built silos of like 5 people who know certain things and everyone else is missing a lot of it, right? And so once we do that, I think that's going to change that. It's no longer going to be a challenge. One other thing that I will mention, Rai and I do not look or represent the majority of the school. That is our biggest challenge. Now, with that, we also recognize that there are, each and every one of us brings different perspective and different intersectionalities. And with that, we will use our experience as being the minority to talk to each and every one of you and making sure that we ask you, who are you? What would you like to see? Because this campus is our campus. We are not outside of you. We are part of us. And so each and everything that we do will be based on how we also live in this campus. Because if we fix something, we are a part of it. If we mess something up, we are a part of it. Our challenges are your challenges.
So one of the best decisions and things I've done as HUSC president right off the bat was hiring a good exec board that's, passionate, pushes each other to succeed, has diverse experiences. It's one of the best things I've done. So what type of people would you surround yourself with in order to be successful? Because that's been part of my success. We'll start off with Rai, then go to Emily, then Liam. So Rai, go ahead.
So kind of how Veda alluded to it earlier, we want to surround ourselves by people who represent our community. Like she said, we do not represent the majority of Hamlin's campus, and for that reason, we will hire and include people in our board who do represent the different communities, whether you're like veterans and other student orgs and athletes and whatever you may be a part of. Each one of your different interests has value to us because your specific interest adds value to our campus as a whole. So we will be hiring a extremely diverse board.
I will also say that creating a board is like creating a net of like friendships. You keep each person for a reason. And some people push you when you need to be pushed, and some people coddle you when you need to be coddled, and some people laugh with you when you need to laugh, right? And so that's what we need to do with our board, because once you build that net of people that surround you, then that relationship is going to foster the kind of community that we built in our campus. And so each and every person that is going to be a part of our board is going to have something that we possibly don't have. And so everyone has, some people are good organizers, some people are good speakers, some people are good at interpersonal relationships, and so that's what you need to foster, is finding those types of people. And sometimes it's not even about the application people fill out, it's about who they are in person. And so being able to see those type of things and how we do that, because we don't represent, it's really tiring sometimes to be like, there are only 5 people who are making the decisions for 2,200 people, right? But when you find those commonalities and also those differences, then you can highlight every single person on this campus, and that's really what's important.
All right, then Emily, right.
There are a lot of aspects to make a good exec board. I think first and foremost, you need people that work independently. I think that's really, really, really important. You need to hire people who can get the job done on their own. Obviously we're going to be overseeing them, and that's a very important aspect. We want to be able to work with them. But I mean, you notice throughout an exec board there is definitely a culture of, hey, can you do this because I know this is your job. I don't want to overstep. You're the bylaws person. You're the organizations person. That's your expertise. And so we want to find people who can really independently work, and then of course come together to work together, all representing their separate roles.
And then just to add, similar to what Ubeda was saying, like something, an exec board that reflects our community. I know Sarah said that her exec board is very diverse and they get stuff done. That's also something that we want to, implement going forward. As Ray said, people get stuff done. As far as reflects the community, yes, we want people of different races, backgrounds, ethnicities, disabilities, abilities, year in college. Maybe somebody who's not a traditional student. They're an undergrad, but they're not a traditional student. They might be 25, right, or something like that. We do a really good job, we think, of reaching out to different groups on campus, and we're also not shy. So if we think that there's somebody that we know that we don't personally know, we might go to a friend and say, hey, you have this friend that we heard about is going to be really good at this position. Do you mind if we get their contact information so we can sit down and talk to them and see if they would apply, see if that's something that they would like, that they would succeed at. We really want it to be a comprehensive team where everybody benefits, and while everybody is working independently, when we come together, it really does create a product that's greater than the sum of its parts.
All right, thank you, and Liam and Ikram.
I think we live in a society where when you hire a person, you look at the job description, the qualifications they have, and based off of that, you hire them. But realistically, if you want to hire someone, you need to hire different people who are from different walks of life. And not just race, not religion, not sexual orientation, but people who've had different experiences. On our exec board team, we would like people who are, like their personality is developed. We want some introverts who are super vocal, but we also want those introverts who will step back and only speak when they are super passionate about something. We want people who academically excel in a specific thing like accounting for our treasurer because they're really great with money and could potentially help with that. We want people who professionally are really good organizers, are really great at logistics, and when you are looking at a schedule and cannot figure out what time slot works, they're like, should have looked that direction. We want people who excel in what we don't excel in, but also excel in what we excel in. We want to be able to take different groups of people from different walks of life, personally, academically, and professionally, and mesh together so that we are representing the community, as in Hamlin's community, as best as we can. So we want commuters who understand that struggle. We want people who live in dorms who also understand the struggle of living in a dormitory and being away from family. We want people who see that the lack of resources we have on Hamlin and be able to not just sit back and allow it to continue, but voice their opinions and want to make things better for themselves, but more importantly, want to make things better for people, for others that are in this community. And we understand that coming into the Hamlin's community, it can be relatively difficult to voice your opinion when you're just trying to figure out what your major is, and you just want to make friends, and you want to be not socially awkward, and you have all these things that you want to accomplish that sometimes getting to voice what your beliefs falls through. So by having a diverse exec board team, we feel like we would be able to represent all of those people and do the most for the majority.
Thank you. So there's a lot of issues that face Hamlin and face HUSC in general. One big thing we hear about nearly every day is accessibility. Hamlin isn't accessible. Hamlin should be more accessible. And we hear it, but it's really hard to sometimes improve it. It's going to be a long journey, and we're starting to make efforts now. But what does accessibility mean to you, and what are you going to do to further it at Hamlin? We're going to start out with Emily, then we're going to do Rai, and then Liam. So Emily and Rai.
Well, I think accessibility comes in a lot of different forms, first of all. Obviously, we talk a lot about this in BER, thinking about as you walk to class, could I get here on a wheelchair? We talk about that all the time, and there's a big movement going forward now. We're about to make some great strides in the form of disability and accessibility around campus, which is fantastic. But I also think there's another level to accessibility, and that comes in invisible disability. There are a lot of cases around campus of students going to professors and asking for accommodations and getting shut down, and that's not okay at all. We need to stop that. We need to help improve counseling and health. We need to help communicate to professors what it means for students to have invisible disabilities, what it means to make accommodations. This is such a pressing issue, and it's affected students in a lot of different ways. So in terms of accessibility, yes, obviously there's a physical aspect of it. There are buildings that are just straight up you cannot get into. That's very, very sad, and it's something that we're working on a lot. But I think it goes beyond that first layer of accessibility, and it goes on to the physical disability side of things, which is something that we care a lot about.
I'll say one thing. Like Ikram said, people from different walks of life, accessibility could be such a broad topic, as Ray was saying. Accessibility could mean having the ability to go to class because you're not starving, because if you're starving, you can't focus in class. Accessibility could mean being able to go to class because you can pay your bill to go to class. Accessibility, could mean so many different things to the effect of being yourself in class. If you can get to class, can you be yourself? Can you speak your mind, and do you have people around you who can support you or who, will listen when you do that? So all those different ways we want to touch on, and specifically working with faculty and staff and all the other people on campus to influence your time here to make it better and really have your true identity show up.
Thank you. Time. Next we'll go to Rai and Abeda.
Ray mentioned that we've been working on accessibility in BER, and I genuinely love that. We've been doing this really great thing. Here's my question is that, do any of you know that we were doing this work? No. Do any of you know that we have an accessibility problem on our campus? Now, imagine a world where each and every one of you were empowered to say, hey, we need accessibility on our campus. In that moment, we're all rising and we're all working for the same goal. No one can stop us because we are a community, right? And so that's what we would like to foster. Accessibility is a really big problem, but it's not just a problem that BER needs to do, it's each and every one of our problems. Because generally speaking, we were talking about this, people with wheelchairs can't get into the admission house to even start their tour. So you can't even come to school here because you ain't toured it. What's that about, right? But now, I'm sitting right here, I'm looking at Mariah. Mariah's an admission, she does tours for the admission house. Had she known this, right, she'd be about it. She'd be talking to the people in that building. Essentially, every single thing that we do is about accountability and how we spread that word to you. We're sitting in our meetings for BER at 7:10 every day, and on Mondays, and we're talking about accessibility, and we want to do it, and there's 10 of us, and we all want to do it. But if we're not telling you guys that we want to do it, then nothing is getting done. Because at the end of the day, you guys are the voice. And if we're all rallying against one thing, then it will get done. It will be a long road, but it will get done. And so that's why I really want to express community allianceship, transparency, talking. Literally, the flow of information is so important because that is how we empower all people.
Thank you. And then Liam and Ikram.
Yeah, I think about accessibility. The first thing is that if someone comes to you, it's not going to matter if you're not there. So it's about showing up and being everywhere and being committed to what you're doing. And we'll both be very committed to our roles. I've missed 2 GAs in the last 2 years as a rep and exec board member, and it was on election day 2016 and election day 2017. Door knocking for people. And I think that's the first part, is showing up, because if someone comes to you with a problem or comes to your office hours or whatever and you're not there, it's not going to matter. And so that's the first part. And then the second part is exactly what Ubeda was talking about, is getting the word out to people. And that's just something that we just all don't do well enough right now. 5 out of 6 of us at this table are on HUSC, and and Sarah, and the questions, and we all agree that there's a problem. And so I think it's just us continuing to work together. And the problem is that there's 3 great teams up here, and so there's probably going to be 2/3 of the student body that's going to vote for someone else. And so much of it is because your friends are on HUSC, or something, or you tell your friends. And so it's going to be about us, whoever is elected, reaching out to those people and reaching out of our comfort zones. And part of that is through, picking a good exec board of people from different walks of life or different places on campus. And so we have to intentionally work really hard on that. And then, also, not just commit the money that we're talking about committing this year to accessibility, but every year. And that just speaks to how we spend the money, because at the end of the day, the money that HUSC has is from all of us paying the student fee, so it's our money. So we should be not having any rollover to the next year like it does every year now, because we're not here to beef up our coffers. We're here to make changes that people want. So I think that's another big reason.
Thank you. And then this will be the last question to end the round, so we wanted to end on something a little lighter, something a little bit fun. So who is your favorite person in HUSC, current, past? Why? Why do they inspire you? Why does it matter? Why are you talking about them? Tell me what they've done and why you want to, why it's important. Oh, yeah. We're going to do Rai, Emily, and then Liam. So Rai and Liam.
Well, as you guys know, Obeda is my favorite person on HUSC. Obeda is phenomenal. By her, you can just tell by the way she carries herself, her voice, her elegance, her poise. Obeda is someone that I think she was president. I was like, Obeda is someone that I is a confidant. I go to her with anything and everything. I truly trust Obeda, and I come to her because I know that she's going to be open, and I know that she's going to check me when I need to be checked, and she's going to make me laugh when I need to be laughed, because I know I'm a very controlling person. I like to get stuff done. I'm very task-oriented, independent. But when I come to Obeda, I know I can just let loose and be like, Obeda got me. Everything else doesn't matter. So Obeda is someone that I know, like, you guys as students will also feel comfortable. If you don't know Obeda, I'm actually surprised, because Obeda is very visible. Obeda is very on campus. You won't miss Obeda. You'll hear her, you'll see her, and that's what we need. So honestly, Obeda is forever my favorite person. Not even on HUSC, but in general. Like, Obeda is.
Alright. We got Emily and Ray.
My favorite for sure was my NSM and also a former president, Eric Eagle. He was a huge deal to me. He really inspired me in terms of his relationship with the president of the university, President Miller. I think he did a great job in terms of being very open to the student body. He was also just a very fun person to be around. He inspired me a lot in the way of just being open to people, in the way of being nice and friendly and everything. So I admire that a lot, and of course, like I said, his relationship with the president was something that I really looked up to in terms of being very communicative with her, and in that, getting back a lot because he was giving a lot, which I thought was neat.
I would say you. If you don't know you, not you as in like y'all, but you as in like the person you sitting back there on the floor right now. First year, you might not know her since it's her first year, and it's like, what is it, February? Okay, anyway. But yeah, just, a lot of people consider Ray to be a ray of sunshine. I consider you to be, I don't have a metaphor for this, but something along the lines of like just a very bright, illuminated, like positive light in my life. Every time you run into her, it's a hug, it's a smile, and it's inspiration to continue doing the work that you're doing on a daily basis. I genuinely believe that she's going to be one of the best leaders on our campus to come. And that's why I spend so much time getting to know her, and also spend so much time listening to her, because she calls me on my stuff, and really keeps me in a positive mindset when I get down or when I get tired, and that's, everybody needs that person around, whether it's Ubeda to Rai or you to me or Ray to me, or everybody needs a person like that. So yeah, you.
And then Liam and Ikram.
This is about to get real messy because Philip walked in at the perfect time. But my favorite person on HUSC is Philip, but not because he's on HUSC or because I've worked with him, but coming to Hamlin, I struggled with my own identity growing up in a small white town, not knowing where I wanted to fit. Anytime I was vocal, I was shut down or told I was being too black or being too aggressive or being too something. And Philip was one of the first people on campus who was like, no, you have rights to your feelings. Girl, you do you. You feel what you want to feel, you say how you want to say it, and just having someone to talk to that was older than me, that had been through Hamlin, that has found their leadership roles, has found their people, has found things they wanted to do on campus really impacted me. Look at Phil just smiling. But honestly, you are one of my favorite people on this campus, and seeing you from like day to day really brightens my day. So thank you for existing and for being there.
Yeah, I don't know if this answer might get me in trouble because Arissa's on HUSC, but I would say Ikram. I think the part of the reason why I want to win is just so that Ikram can be the vice president. I think she just does such a good job in all the many jobs that she has on campus and all the connections, and I think she's just so real and sort of challenges you and especially me a lot, just to be better all the time. And I definitely appreciate when we ran together, we knew each other a little from exec board, but getting to know her more made me appreciate her more. So that's my answer.
Y'all, that was heartwarming. You guys are perfect. That will end this round, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Alrighty, to kick off our second round of questions, we'll actually have the current sitting Vice President of HUSC, Paige Mansky, come on up.
I'm gonna start off by not being offended that I wasn't chosen as anyone's favorite HUSC member, but the first question, you've all talked a lot about communication and how it's important. I want to hear some specific ways that you will communicate with the student body inside and outside of HUSC. So the order will be Rai, Leah, and Emily.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. So you've all talked about a lot about communication. What are some specific ways that you plan on communicating more with the student body?
Honestly, like, right now, I really feel like people think there's only 2 ways to communicate. You're sending an email or like you put it on like inside him. And I genuinely believe there's so many more ways to talk to people, right? And face-to-face conversations is how most things start. So let's generate that. Let's have those face-to-face conversations. Honestly, so many people I think on this campus don't even know who their representatives are. We do elections and people fill out applications and they're on there and then everyone comes by the table and they fill out the ballot and they're like, oh, I voted for this person, but you don't have that conversation because there's no visibility. And so we need to first start by making sure that if you are going to be a representative, if you are saying that I am representing these people, you are visible to those people so they know how to relay information to you and you know how to relay information to them. That's first. I really like the new thing that HUSC is doing with the newsletter. I think it's a very good idea. I want it to be more effective, however, though, because I think we do have an influx of emails that goes out. Everybody, I think, like your first year here, or like went to the student org and you're like, I'm about to be in all of these orgs, and now you're getting all these emails, and so at this point you're just kind of like, look, spam, spam, spam. So I think the newsletter is really great, but maybe we need to make it so it's like a physical thing, so everybody can attain it. You walk by somewhere, you see that there's a stack of HUSC newsletters, you pick it up and you're like, wow, okay, look, this is what's going on. This is what I can bring to GA, these are the questions I have. And so I think it's really just like making sure that the things that the way in which we communicate is intentional, instead of it just being like, hey, I'm relaying information, I did it. So when someone asks, hey, did you do it? You're like, I sent the email. But you sent the email, but did they receive the email? And that's really what is important.
Next up is Leah Micro.
Yeah, I kind of talked about it before, but with the newsletter, like Rubeda said, like we have some physical copies, but trying to get them in more central locations, and Philip, with the newsletter is such a good idea, and I think I'm excited. We've only had one, so it's excited to do it more, and getting more information. I think, face-to-face conversations, obviously I talked about, as president and vice president, we should be out there, not just up in the office waiting for people to come to us, but going out to people, moving GAs to different spots in Anderson, maybe outside and other things. I think, just through Facebook, like, we use the HUSC Facebook page, but how effectively are we using it, and Twitter and all these things. And like I said before with the HUSC website, having an anonymous forum, I think that would really be good so that people can just ask questions and have answers and talk to each other and get solutions to problems. So I think all those would be good ways.
Emily, right?
Well, obviously, I mean, we're talking about specific things. Overall, I think it starts with being genuine. That's a really important thing for us. Being genuine with the student body, communicating to them. And we were talking about specific ways of doing that. The first one, I think, a solution that we've come up with, is holding GA in Anderson more. And allocating time of that GA General Assemblies, for those who don't know, weekly HUSC meetings with all of us. Allocating time of them to go out, find people in Anderson during convo hour, and bring them into our space. And let them share their concerns, and let them meet the reps, let them talk to us, let them see our process, let them hear the people who are here to present. I think that would be a very, very influential thing if we did it.
Ubeda kind of spoke to this point, but like, the point of being available, I think as an NSN, that was one of the things that I learned is like you're on call 24/7. So if you get a text and somebody needs you, you respond. Or if you're in class and like you see it 45 minutes later, when that 45 minutes later happens, you respond as soon as you can. And so as she was saying, like being a face, being something that people can really come up to and talk to. If we ask you how you're doing, we genuinely care. Like we genuinely want to hear you say more than like, good, tired, like stuff like that. And really having that connection that goes beyond president, student, and stuff like that.
What is one thing in particular that you want to change about HUSC? Not the student body, not Hamlin, but about HUSC. So the order on this one will be Liam Nickram, Emily Ray, and Ryan Oveda.
I think the biggest thing that we would like to change about HUSC is encouraging orgs, exec board members, and reps to work together and help each other with events. Because if you think about it, you pay a student fee, that goes into HUSC's money, and then once HUSC has it, you go through the chartering process, you go through me, you go through Peter, you get chartered, hooray, and that's kind of it, really. And then you go to once a month all-org meetings, and then March rolls around and you apply for budgeting again, and that's it. But those of us on the exec board team have so many different leadership development skills that we could be applying to these different orgs. Other than just beyond having all org meetings, we can be attending these events. I understand people are obviously busy and you hold so many roles and you all have your academics to think about, but some kind of structure where you actually go to these events or you go to their meetings and you go, hey, I've done this kind of an event. Or encouraging collaborations. We have so many events on this campus. And if you look at it, there are so many similar things that people could co-sponsor together, have double the resources, double the people, and just be able to get that kind of help and have a bigger turnout. So I think one of the biggest things Liam and I want to do is for HUSC to be more than just money, for it to be more than just a fund, but for it to have members that are known, which would increase communication if we're the ones going to these meetings and not telling people to come to us for GA, that we are stepping out of our boundaries, attending what meetings we can, having some kind of structure where we rotate and that it's not the same people doing the same things, but that we are hearing the students' concerns and bringing it back to GA, making decisions and helping people the best we can.
Sorry, Emily Ray.
Okay. As I said before, I learned a lot of stuff recently, over the course of the time that Ray and I have been meeting and really, learning about the position. So one of the things that I learned is that, HUSC gives out scholarships or has the opportunity to give out scholarships for different conferences and things that you may want to go to as a student. A lot of people don't know that. Like, genuinely, that was one of the things that I learned. And so, as far as what everybody's been saying and being transparent and letting people know what we have and what's going on, I think that's something that, when you're a student here, when you're trying to learn more, you're trying to explore, you're really trying to grow your breadth of knowledge, going to a conference, going somewhere that's not the city that you grew up in or the state that you grew up in is so important. In addition to, seeing the things in real life, touching the statues, statues of people you actually like, not statues of other people. Anyway, and meeting people who are different than you in addition. So.
As well, I think a very common theme tonight is everyone's talking about availability and transparency, which is really, really cool that we all have the same common goal there. And it's something that I know we'll all work on in different ways, whether elected or not. One thing that I really have noticed through HUSC and I want to work on is HUSC has a tendency to burn people. And it happens in a lot of different ways in terms of, denying funding and being not very communicative about it, and other ways of, just denying things in general. And then you have people who go out into the student body with only a negative impression of us when it could be a more positive one. Not through us granting them different things that they shouldn't be, but just communicating more with them. I think we can improve our image on campus if we communicate more with these people that we're interacting with. And I think that's something that we would seek to improve a lot.
Ryan Oveda?
The first step that HUSC and that we will take is to honestly show up and be present. So something specific that we're going to do is in our exec board, we'll have board members that will be present at other student org meetings, their general body meetings, because it's not just student orgs are over here and then we'll invite one of them to GA to present on whatever they would like. It's about HUSC being present and being accountable to that population. We serve our student orgs, our students, our veterans, our athletes. So it's about showing up to their games. It's about forming relationships between presidents, vice presidents, HUSC, and students. It's about we have to like foster those relationships so we can form an alliance, kind of like what our campaign is based on. Building an alliance, being comfortable with each other, knowing that we are accessible, we're visible, we're accountable to you, and that we are always here for you. It's not about, hey, I'm gonna come to one student body meeting and I'm gonna hear what you have to say and leave and call it like end right there. It's about really being consistent and being there when I need to be there. And same for my vice president and making sure our exec board is always there.
All right, next question. Statistics tell us that Hamlin is getting more and more diverse, not just with race and ethnicity, gender diversity and sexualities, but we're getting more and more first-gen students, non-traditional students, vets and active duty, and also people with varying ability. The question in that is, how do you bridge the gap between these diverse backgrounds with Hamlin students? Order. The order on this is Ryan Obeda, Liam Nickram, Alina Ray.
One thing that I want to begin with is, honestly, it's telling your story. We are all different, and I definitely acknowledge that and I recognize that. Just like Obeda said earlier, me and Obeda do not represent the population of the school. And for that reason, I think it's important to share your story, share your background, share your experiences, share what makes you you and what makes me me. There's this one quote that I like. It's, I am because you are, and you are because I am. We are more similar than we realize, and I think bridging those connections and really fostering the space to have those conversations about who we are, about what we bring to the table is important and will be like centered in the work that we do.
I would like to ditto that, like literally so important, like, just talking to people is so important, and that's how you start bridging gaps. And I think everybody holds so many intersectionalities. We all do. I'm sitting up here, Black, woman, Muslim, immigrant. I hold all of those intersectionalities, right? And this is really weird because, okay, so like I sit with like a bunch of like white soccer dudes at lunch, right? And people are like, Obeda, you don't play soccer, you're not white, you're not a dude. I'm like, I bet. But guess what? I'm not sitting at that table and talking about soccer because I don't care if Arsenal won the game or not, right? But we're sitting there, we're having an actual conversation about like people. And I think, honestly speaking, friendships is how you start anything. Alliances is how you start anything. Knowing that these people care about you is how you start anything. Bridging gaps is not about like sitting around and saying, okay, I'm so different, I'm this, so I can't possibly be in this space, because you don't know who that person is outside of what they physically show you or what they don't show you. So you need to have those conversations. You sit down with people and you're just like, hey, like, y'all, remember like Dragon Tales? Like, what were they doing on Dragon Tales? And you're just having that conversation and you realize y'all literally both like grew up somewhere, you know, and all that. So.
I think the first step between bridging that gap is being there from the beginning. I think, you know, if we get elected, I mean, this is going to be the most probably important thing in my life. And, you know, I would love to be at every Piper preview, and, you know, because a lot of students, you know, if they come to their Piper preview and they see their president and their vice president there right away, and they're doing the icebreakers with them, you know, getting to know them at the beginning, all those awkward icebreakers, and be just so that they don't have to have that gap coming in to then trying to all of a sudden learn everything about how everything works once they get here. You know, if you start that process from the beginning, I think that can really help bridge that gap, and then people aren't having to try to play catch up and, you know, ask someone, how does this work? How do I get on HUSC? What is HUSC? So then by the time they're a sophomore, junior, they're not then just learning, and that then they're coming to debates like this, and they're coming to GAs, and they're already knowing what is happening. So I think starting from the beginning is really important.
I think a lot of what Ueda said has so much truth in it. I agree with a lot of what she said. I would just like to add that, you know, to the effect of being humble and being able to identify your privilege, being able to have the people around you humble you, being able to learn from them, listen to them, and everything amongst all of what that comes with. You know, our Wi-Fi name at our house is Black Empowered Women. We're very proud of that. It is for Black women, you know, and we cherish that every single day. That doesn't mean that we all come from the same socioeconomic background. That doesn't mean that I haven't learned about other socioeconomic background. That doesn't mean that we all, you know, use the same hair products on our curly hair, because we don't have the same curl pattern. And so it really comes down to listening to people. We're all unique, we're all different, and we all bring something to the table. And that's honestly one thing that makes Hamlin so great for so many people. In comparison to my high school, Hamlin is not as diverse. For so many people in comparison to their high school, Hamlin is so diverse, and I hear that a lot. And so I think we really need to cherish that and make it a place that people want to stay at, and that people's voices, you know, can be embraced and can be heard, and we can improve that. So really just listening, being your genuine self so everyone else can be their genuine self.
Okay. The next two questions, spoiler alert, are the two hardest things that I have faced in my vice presidency. So, brace yourself. First one, sometimes the student body's demands on a particular issue don't match your own opinions for whatever reason. May it be misinformation, or may it be your own ingrained biases. How would you account for that? So the order on this one will be Rai, Liam, Emily. I promise these are randomly generated. Ray's coming up a lot first, but I did randomly generate. Go on.
I will say that, like, generally speaking, so many of our own opinions are based on our own, like, perspectives and our walk of life and the journey in which we've been through, right? And if we want to say that we are the representatives of the people, then we have to do that, stay true to our word. Now, I don't mean as in, like, if somebody wants to start something that I'm like, dude, no, then I'm just going to do it because people just want to start it. But I think it's really about fostering that, like, conversation. Because if people are so fired up about it, there's a reason for that. And then that causes me to now change my values and why do I value such a thing, right? And then, it's really about the discourse in which we have, because honestly speaking, you learn more when you speak. And you learn more when you hear others speak. And so I totally get what you mean about, like, the challenge of, like, when somebody talks about something that doesn't fit in with my beliefs. But if so many people are with this one cause, there's a reason for that. I have to allow myself to align with why would so many people be fired up about something that they shouldn't be powered up about, you know? And so I don't think I see what you mean as a challenge, but I think it's really about, like, recognizing that people's voices matter and really, like, valuing why people are fired up, valuing their opinions.
It's honestly about asking why and really trying to unite our voice, because my voice is only as strong as your voice is. My voice cannot be detached from what your voice is. So it's honestly asking the question why and moving forward to a solution.
Any given leadership role, when you decide to pick that role, you are signing at the bottom on the dotted line, and you are saying that myself and my views and my values matter. But at the end of the day, it is no longer about me. There are others involved. Whatever leadership role you have, you are representing a certain group of people. May it be Hamlin, may it be me, myself being the SOC chair. You have to realize that you are not going to have the same values, the same thoughts as everyone else. But when someone brings a concern to you, you have to be able to sit back and you have to be able to listen and hear them out. And if it becomes a concern that's just more than one person, that is the majority. You need to be able to sit back and realize, though I may not agree with this, I signed up as this role so that I could help the majority and be their representative. It's definitely difficult. I've had similar challenges before, but at the end of the day, I realized that it's not all about me. The role doesn't revolve around me. I am on this campus. I've chosen to hold leadership roles on this campus because I care to do the best I can to help different groups of people reach whatever potential they need to reach. So it's just knowing when to lead, but more importantly, just knowing when to follow as well and be able to represent the people to the best of your ability.
We've yet to bring up our slogan. So official plug, our slogan is Our Campus, Your Way. It's very similar to Ready and Veda's slogan. I think it's what we, me, something along those lines.
What would we do for us?
Sure. So we, us, and we are the keywords. So it's very similar to that. The reason why we chose to focus on this is because we really are working on y'all's behalf. It's not about our personal gain. It's not about a resume builder. It's not about this title. It's really about listening to y'all, advocating for y'all, representing y'all. Ray can speak more on that.
I think one of the most important aspects in these roles is first acknowledging that it's not about you. I think it's about acknowledging that it's about the student body and it's about listening. And we have a lot of different ideas on how we listen. We talk about making our office hours more public and accessible. We talk about us actually getting out there and tabling, not just limiting it to the reps, but monthly, we can sit in Anderson and listen to what people have to say. Having our reps come into our office hours once a month and talk to us, rep one-on-ones would be so important. Holding GA in Anderson, like we talked about earlier. Walking around the forum, introducing ourselves to people. Piper previews, like Liam was saying, showing up at Piper previews, hearing people out, smiling at people when we pass them around campus so they feel more welcome around us. There's a lot of different ways we can start listening, and I think it all starts by acknowledging that it's not about ourselves.
All right, this is my final question, and the hardest thing that I've faced in my position. But how will you maintain a life balance with HUSC as your first priority? So first on this is Rayuna Beta, then Emily and Ray.
I just know for me, anytime anyone's like, yeah, let's do something, I'm like, yo, look at my calendar. Send me a Google invite. And honestly, that's truly what it's about. It's literally like organizing your life so you know what to do, right? And so I schedule time for when I'm gonna eat, when I'm gonna go take a nap and all that. And so it's really about like prioritizing your time so that you know what you need to do. Like if you're just like, okay, look, I'm not gonna be with you from 4 to 6 because I gotta go do this thing. I gotta go do this thing. And so it's really about like being keeping ourselves accountable on our own time. I think right, you would like agree with that and like Google Calendar, y'all. Like really though, can everybody get on the hype?
On Google Calendar though, HUSC will be a priority. So when it comes to managing my time, it's about managing my priorities. And as president, Hamlin's campus, Hamlin University, Hamlin students will be my priority. Right now, I'm extremely busy. I do multiple things in and off campus, and that's what I do right now. But if I was to be elected, my new priority would be HUSC. So I think, yes, it's hard to manage your time, but if you set your priorities straight, there's nothing else to worry about.
I talked about earlier, we are two very busy people at the moment, and up until whether we get elected or not, we have been very involved. And I think that involvement is very important going forward in our past experiences, but we don't need to bring it into the future because, like Riley said, I think any of us, if elected, this would be our #1 priority. This would be our job and our duty to campus, so that would be very important. So obviously, we would be cutting back on a lot of our commitments, which would be a challenge, but it's a challenge that we can accomplish. And then I think a big part of it is trust. It's relying on each other to get the job done. It's a team dynamic that we've already built between the two of us. If we need to take care of ourselves, we need to rely on the other person to help take care of us. And that's something I think we've accomplished already in a lot of different ways.
I'll just add, I have a therapist. That person does so many things for me. Like I talk to them about stuff. Like I go there and I cry because I'm a human being and I have feelings and stuff like that. You might not ever see me cry, but when I go there, I might need to cry. So that time is so important, and I will continue to utilize my therapist no matter, if I get this position, if I don't. I think decompressing is so important. It's something that we don't do enough, and I've made it a priority of mine. In addition to HUSC, I've made decompressing and keeping my mental health a priority. In addition to that, friends, like people who aren't professional therapists, but people who are professional, people who know you, people who can give you the best advice, people who know you when you're wrong, can call you out on that, and laugh at you, when you're on the ground just rolling around, you're funky, you're weird, you're spooky because it's late, it's nighttime. Anyway, just clutch people, man, just clutch people, yeah.
For me, it would be very similar to what I'm doing now. Last year, my sophomore year, I took and put more on my plate than I should have, and it definitely affected everything I did, and I went into things with not the best positive aspect. So last year when I applied for the SOC chair position that I have currently with HUSC, I told myself that if I get this position, that I would drop everything else and make sure that I'm just concentrating on this one position, having to work with, we have 32 different charter organizations. I knew that I wouldn't really have anywhere else to put my time. So for me, it's taking on less but doing more and being able to put my best self forth. So occasionally I'm slowly but surely learning how to say no and making sure that I take care of myself and maybe watching TV, hanging out with friends, screaming my lungs off at a friend because they're a really good listener and they just want to listen to me rant because other people probably won't. But just making sure that A, I take care of myself, so B, I can do the best I can. So for me, it'd be similar to right now, just making sure that I prioritize HUSC like I do right now and just continuing to say no when I need to.
Yeah, I think for me, HUSC is my #1 priority right now. I did a lot more different activities last year, like being on the Drew Hall Council and College Democrats and being a rep and working on political campaign back home. And then once I was becoming the secretary, I all of a sudden, it was different than being a rep. It wasn't just, sort of volunteering, but, we get a stipend, and so we're getting paid by the students. So I dropped a lot of those things in order to make time to do this. And for next year, I feel very lucky to be on the exec board and have a good idea by seeing Sarah and what she's done, especially early on, and sort of the time that she has had to take. And so I feel very prepared to do that. And talking to Sarah, you talked to Eric Yekel and Logan Isaac, the past presidents, and you say you have a grades drop a little bit, and so my parents will have to be prepared for that.
All right, the schedule dictates now we move directly into the open question part, so I'm going to just pass the mic over to Peter.
Alrighty, audience, this is your time to shine. If you have any burning questions for an individual, a candidate team, or the entire panel, please just raise your hand, let me know, and we will start doing open questions. Anyone have a question? Place is quiet.
I have just a question for everyone. I'd be interested to know when the last time you scrolled through your Inside Hamlet was.
Ooh, I know. Good. If I could take this first. This isn't a coincidence today. Yeah, both Emily and I, one of the things we bonded on early on is we're like, wait, you actually read Inside Hamlet? I was like, I actually read Inside Hamlet, and that's how we kind of became the friends that we are now. And that's a very important part. We understand the flaws in Inside Hamlet, and we understand that not a lot of student body people read it. But I opened that up one day, and I saw a lot of amazing information. That blew my mind, and I have not stopped reading it since.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I actually read Inside Hamlin. Actually, I do it to stock professors on campus. So on the bottom, I have Professor Keefe. She's my public health professor, advisor, mentor, and everything in that. And I scroll down all the way to the bottom to see what the professors are doing outside in our community, and that's so important because oftentimes I go to my professors and I think that they have ample amount of time to help me with my questions and concerns, but these people are doing real things in the real world outside of Hamlin. So I saw that she was on a board with the American Public Health Association. I was like, wow, this is amazing stuff. And I went to her, I'm like, you were on a panel? Because she wouldn't, I don't know, she didn't mention it to me, but I thought that was super interesting. So that was a conversation that we had. And that's also another reason why I really like Inside Hamlin, how it has things that professors or even students, researchers, other people are doing on Hamlin that relates to our community.
So I used to not look at Inside Hamlin. I was that kid who was like, Debbie. And then I started working as a student worker for TR and Hans, and then I work at the Creative Element Center, and both of them make me use it. And I never understood the struggle of getting the blurb in the right direction and fixing that and fixing this. So I think it's until you understand the struggle, you don't really look at things and you don't realize how much effort people put into continuously putting stuff into Inside Hamlin. But I don't know, since I've gotten that perspective of working with it and understanding how much people put into it, AKA also me, not gonna lie, I started reading it and realizing that it did have a lot of great content. And so I look at it whenever it comes, and then I just put it in my miscellaneous so that if I ever need to refer back to it, I can.
Yeah, I read it too, and I think it's important because I think if someone cares enough to take the time to get something Inside Hamlin, even though we know that not necessarily a lot of students read it, then I think it's something that should deserve to be read. So I think it's important to keep up and be up to date on what's going on. So.
Hi, this is for everyone. I'm an alumni, and I know alumni participation is just terrible. And so I don't know if you guys have any ideas how maybe you can increase alumni participation?
Actually, yesterday in this room, we did a panel discussion, and one of the women that were here, it was a black woman, and her name was Stephanie Lewis, and she was an alumni too. And she talked about how it took her so long to even come back. It took her a long time to build up the courage to want to come back onto our campus. And that made me sad, because I thought, why is that? You know? And she didn't feel that community that we want to have on our campus. And she didn't feel like she could come back. And she worked really, really hard to come back. And then we sat around for like an hour. We talked about how we get more alumni to come back to our campus, because honestly speaking, we don't know what we're doing some half the time. We need y'all. And you're, like, honestly, you being back there right now is so important. Like, thank you for being here, and thank you for asking your question, because we need y'all, because y'all did this already, and y'all left, and now you're doing bigger and better things out there, and we need that. And so I think for us, it's really about, like, students saying that we do need y'all. Sometimes we don't know how to ask for help. And so it's about us literally making that initiative to say, we need y'all. And then we send those invitations out, like, we're gonna do this thing. It's gonna be super just fun. We're not doing it. You don't need you to bring anything in. Just bring yourself, bring your story, bring like all that you emulate. And that is what's really important, because when I sat down yesterday and talked to Stephanie, I was like, everything that you're saying, I related so much to her. It turned out we went to the same high school, actually. And she came in and she was saying all these things, and she was saying everything that I felt and everything that I was. And I was like, could we have lunch? Like, and that is so important, and it's literally just letting people come in and like telling, literally asking. We need to be able to say that we need y'all, and we really, really need y'all.
Yeah, if I may go next. I think obviously about inviting them back to our campus, being welcoming of them. We have a lot of orgs and boards set up to already do this, so it's a very easy communicating to them, and then therefore communicating to the alumni. It's not a hard task to accomplish. I think also it's about communicating to them that they are more than just their donations, and they're more than just their pockets. And we value them more than just what they have to contribute to the school. And obviously, you know, whatever they want to contribute, it's very important stuff, but when they come to campus, we get a chance to hear their stories. We get a chance to hear what Hamlin has been and what it can be, what Hamlin did for them, just like we were talking about. And so finding ways to invite them back and finding ways to make them feel valuable and as valuable as they deserve to feel is really, really important to us. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, well, Dad,
I asked everybody.
no, I think, you know, people's experience when they're at Hamlin will probably dictate a lot of whether they'll come back. You know, if you hate Hamlin or you hate President Miller or whatever, you know, you're probably not going to want to come back. So if we start by improving the experience that each student has, that would be a start. And then, like Ray said, you know, we need to not just send them mail or send them things when we want their money. You know, we want, like Ubeda said, their experience and their stories. And so I think, you know, and also just building networks within orgs and different students, like HUSC. Like, we should have maybe HUSC alumni come back, past presidents, past reps. So I think those would be different ways.
Okay.
Balancing a budget is a big part of being on the HUSC exec board at all. So what experiences do you have balancing a budget, and how would you handle working with student money?
So right now, I currently serve as the treasurer for the Pride Black Students Alliance, and my president's back there, Shania, will be at meetings, and they're like, oh, we're gonna do this, and I'm like, there's no money. And honestly speaking, like, it's really, so I am in the College of Business, so that's what I'm doing. I'm getting my degree, I guess, in marketing and stuff, and so I am currently in an accounting class. But I think it's really about like knowing what it is that's important and what do you allocate to. And we sat down for like a whole meeting and discussed like how much money do we want to put to this, and then literally sometimes we have to go back to it and say, hey, we did this, and like we have all this money left over, let's find something else to do it with. And so I've been doing this for basically like this whole year, and just yesterday actually I was sitting in Anderson and I like filled out like 10 like check requests, because I was like, we have to get the soul food dinner going, we got to get these speakers paid. And honestly, like, I honestly enjoy it, and like my board members know, like, I geek out when like, I get on my Excel sheet and I'm like, yo, look, like, I just plugged in this number and that just changed. Look at this formula I just did. And everyone's like, okay, that no one cares, but like, it's cute for me. And so, I don't know, I have a lot of fun with it. I don't know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but like, I sip it, so.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'm already on the Economic Affairs Committee. That's a huge part of my job here in HUSC. I have a lot of fun with it. I've enjoyed it. And something I've discovered through that experience of allocating money to different student organizations through the many different funds that HUSC already has is that, again, why we're all here tonight, it comes down to listening and hearing what students have to say, and hearing their concerns, and hearing where they want money to go, and hearing where they don't want money to go. It's really, really important. There are a lot of times where funds run short, we have to make difficult decisions, and being a part of that process already has really, really helped me and align my vision with budget.
I'll just add, like, on a personal note, like, for your life, I think that it's important to have a budget, or at least maybe have like a vision, or like something that you're trying to do as far as money-wise, not because like money is the end-all be-all, but because it's capitalist society we live in here, So anyway, I have a personal budget, so and I recently just got re-employed, and I'm going to be paying for school on my own and everything like that. I think that we all have personal experiences with stuff like that, but I think that that's something I can attest to personally. Ray said this earlier, and we kind of spoke to it too, but like, if it's your expertise, if it's your cup of tea, like, do that. And the exec board, like, if that's your thing, then do that. We'll hire you to do that if that's your thing. You're really good at it, and you can do that, and you can talk me through it too, so I can understand, because that's important as well. But yeah, knowing what strengths and weaknesses you have and allowing people to utilize them.
I personally think, which Liam can piggyback off of, because I know we have like different perspectives on budgeting and stuff, but I think the most like relevant thing is making sure you're allocating money towards what matters. So say the diversity summit, I think that should have more money than the late night study breakfast. Like, it's great that we have all these prizes, and I think it's really wonderful that we have an event where people can be stressed and like come eat food and stuff, but not so much money needs to go into like all these prizes to be given away. It's nice, but when we can be allocating more money towards events that are actually going to be teaching people about a specific topic, and someone especially who maybe comes from a small community and has never had that experience, and to be able to walk into an event, sit down and be presented with all of this and be asked, hey, what do you think? What are you feeling? Where do you want to go from this? I think things like that matter. And making sure that obviously you use the years past, whatever budgeting decisions were made, and knowing that the mistakes that were made and using those mistakes to correct whatever in moving forward, because if you don't use the past, you're not really going to be moving forward. So it's that essence of knowing, hey, we really made this mistake last year, the year before that, and especially with Liam and I being on the exec board, and knowing like certain mistakes that have been made with certain budgeting things that we can fix that. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing with budgeting is, and it was touched on earlier, I'm not sure by who, but it's that when we can't give a specific amount of money to a specific org, that we really need to be transparent in why we couldn't give all that money, or give some kind of like fundraising ideas, or have things, some structured ways where we could be like, you fundraise this, and here's a challenge grant. So if you make 500, we'll give you 500, but actually working with student organizations and telling them what they can do. Because a lot of the times, when there's an exec board, a lot of them graduate and you get a new exec board and they don't know what they're doing, and you just give them this money and you tell them, okay, go off, like, good luck. And it's that ability that it's like, we are claiming that we are the student voice, and we need to be able to work better with them and give them those resources.
Alrighty, we got a question from Kevin, one of our junior reps. With the growth in the veteran presence on campus, how will you help support and acknowledge the veteran community?
Well, I think, having someone like Kevin on HUSC, who is a veteran and involved in that, I think is a valuable resource. So turning to people who know more than you, I think is an important thing. And I think, turning to someone like that, it's a part of the org. And I think this is where Ikram's experience will be really valuable as chair of the Student Organizations Committee. It's like, she knows all these orgs. She has meetings with them every month at an all-org meeting. And so I think those relationships she's already built well, and I think that that's how we need to support veterans, is by, turning to people like Kevin, asking what they need, listening, and then supporting that and responding to their concerns.
Again, visibility. How many of us know where the Veterans Center on campus is? That's a really good amount. For those of you who don't, it's in West Hall. It's in the basement, you know. I've talked to Kevin in the committee we sit on together about, you know, getting more accommodations down there, getting better doors for the building, you know, for the room. It's an important thing. And I think making it more visible, making it more accessible, and helping them with their advertisement and their visibility would be a very important step in making veterans feel more welcome on this campus.
Just to go off of something Ray said earlier, HUSC has a tendency to burn people, and I think that something that's important is getting to people before they're forgotten about, or before they really have like a deep grievance with HUSC. I think, you know, if you establish that relationship, I think Uwe also said this in like that friendships, you know, but like establishing that relationship before it becomes a problem and being preventative and really, you know, knowing who's on your campus, knowing the people, you know, personally, but also like, are they present? Are they not present? Like, how many of them, and you know, how many people are in that group? You know, what are their ages and stuff like that? What do they like to do, etc. Yeah, stuff like that.
So when it comes to veterans, for example, I'm not a veteran. I have never served, and I think because of that, I think it's really important to ground myself in what their experience is. Kind of like I mentioned before, it's really important to start with a conversation. Start with telling your story, and let's use that story in order to make Hamlin more accessible to you and for us in general. So it's really kind of like Liam was saying, is deferring to people who do have experience and giving them the power over what happens to them. Like if I personally do not have that experience, it's important to share my experience and ground myself in that and really defer that power back to them in themselves. So adding on to that, kind of like Ray was saying, the veterans, it's an office. It's like it's one office. It's not even as big as this room. It's about like half the size. So it's like, I think we need to expand that, and we also need to make it more accessible and have signs like, hey, the Veteran Service Building is here. Can you, like, this is where you go. I've never even seen like a list where it has like, hey, the Veteran Service Building is here. Like, I feel like you have to go out of your way to ask, and I feel like you should know, you should see. In fact, the veterans should be in the Anderson Building with our multicultural organizations that we have at the 3rd floor. They're an important part. They have served our country, and I think that's vital to like Hamlin's mission of like community and really reaching out to the people that actually provide service outside of this campus. So,
I'd like to add on. I really like in the point that Rai was making about like changing where they are located on our campus, and that's because once you do that, then we show that we are valuing them and we are celebrating them. And one thing that I will also touch on is allyship, because as Liam mentioned earlier, like Kevin is on the board and he might be the one person that we're looking to always support the veterans. But when we all go out of our way, when we all like build those connections with a veteran, or you build a connection with somebody, you become their ally, and hence you can advocate for them. Because believe it or not, if there's like 10 veterans on this campus, then their voice can get lost in the sauce. But when there's like at least like 2 people, if there's 2 people who know one veteran, another 2 people who know, and then we're getting those people and those allies are advocating for them, then we're getting more things happening. And so it's about making sure that we're creating those allyships, and then like, at that time? Yeah. Cool.
This is also for everyone. What is, we've talked about a lot of the different changes that need to be made on campus and at HUSC and all over everything, but what is like the single most greatest change that you think needs to be made, or other, if you have
In fostering community, we need to make sure that every single person can be a part of our community. And a lot of the things that we've like talked about with like the listening circles and stuff like that, they've talked about translators on campus. and that hasn't happened yet. Because believe it, I remember we were sitting in a listening circle and somebody mentioned that like a lot of parents miss out on their on their kids like process through college, and I walked out of that room like bawling my eyes out because I realized my parents didn't get a lot of the things that I was going through because nobody was going to be able to sit down with them, explain to them details about my financial aid award, or sit down with them and tell them about like what classes I needed to take and stuff like that. And then I think about the people who literally get lost in translation. Literally get lost in translation. And I think we need to literally do that, because if we're saying that like where we want to foster diversity, we want to foster community, then how do we do that? Like, why do we expect every single person to speak this dominant language? Why do we expect every single person to fit into this form of assimilation? How about, and so it's like literally like providing the resources to make people feel like they are part of this community, a part of this big old like big bubble that we're creating, and that I think is really, really important, and literally making sure that like it's not just us saying it and we're all saying it, and then once we all advocate for that same goal, we're gonna get it, because it's really easy to find somebody who's gonna speak Spanish. It's really easy to find somebody who's gonna translate in Somali. There's just so many different things that we can possibly do, but we're pretending like it's gonna be hard and we're staying stagnant. And that needs to change. We need to move.
Similarly, diversity, but what do we was talking about as inclusion? You know, diversity, y'all might have heard this before, diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance. You know, and really being addressed that you're there, that you're in the room, that you can interact with the people, and you can speak, and like you can, you know, be human with them. That's really important. I think one of the things that I really want to lobby to do, given this position, is, you know, with the faculty, to lobby them to say, do you see the diverse people in your classroom? Do you address them? Is there curriculum that, you know, speaks to who they are? Take 1 minute and show somebody in your field who looks like people in this classroom, or who has a sexual orientation of somebody who's in this classroom, if they've shared that with you and if you know it. Or somebody who, you know, isn't a majority. That, in and of itself, you'll probably hit somebody in the classroom who identifies with that. And so I think your education is so much better when you can actually, you have tangible examples of what it is that you're learning, what you're aspiring to, and what you can do because of the people who are in front of you. So single-handedly diversity and inclusion, and more specifically, lobbying the professors.
This might be very, very simple, but I think we have to start simply. It's that notion of like when you walk through Anderson, or you're walking to classes and you hear people, your friends, or the other people talking to their friends, and you hear similar conversations, and people have similar struggles, and we hate the same thing about Hamlin, and it just goes in circles and circles. But at the end of the day, you get upset about something. What's the first thing you're gonna do? You're gonna go to a friend, you're gonna rant, that friend's gonna validate you, tell you that it's okay, you're gonna hug it out, you're gonna laugh about it, and then it just stops there. But it's like there are people having the exact same struggle as you. It may be obvious, they may be on a different track, they obviously come from a different walk of life, but we have so many similar struggles that we don't have the platform or the place to share them. So I think there needs to be some kind of, and I don't think it's gonna happen in 1 year, I don't even see it happening in 5 years, but I think as the student body, those of us who do hold leadership roles on campus, may it be in NSM, may it be in RA, may it be in HUSC, but knowing that you impact this amount of students and sharing their struggles, and somehow maybe those leadership people, like those different roles, combining and coming together and fighting maybe for this one thing, maybe this semester, and next semester fighting for this thing. But I think it's the inability to realize that we can't do it all, because you just want to do it all, and it's that we have to back up and know that, hey, maybe just this 1 year, maybe we can just solve this one problem, but just to know that if we give it all of our force and come together, that maybe we can make a difference.
Tom, this will be our final question.
On the other side of the coin, Andrew asked about what's the biggest change you want to make. What's your favorite thing about Hamlin, and you want to make sure that it doesn't change? That's Harrison.
Honestly, community, the ability to say hi to people on your way to class is something that I think I appreciate, will also take for granted all the time. The ability to know people in Anderson when you walk in is a really beautiful thing. And I think, obviously it's something that we want to utilize, and it's also something that we want to expand. So I've always been very grateful of the community here.
So one of my, kind of like I mentioned in my opening statement, I never stepped foot onto campus until Piper Review. So I already signed a contract. I was already going to be here regardless. So walking in, I was terrified, honestly. I reached out to Aveda, my first friend, but honestly, it wasn't even that I personally, I like Aveda, I wanted to approach her, but honestly, I feel like I could approach anyone in Anderson. Anderson has this open environment where like I can see people and be like, oh, they're laughing, they're having a conversation, and I can feel comfortable approaching them. So honestly, that's one of my favorite things about Hamlin, but also on the more logistical side, the fact that Hamlin really centers their values of service, leadership, scholarship, community, and diversity, especially leadership. The fact that we take the lead is pasted everywhere on this campus really allows me as a student to be like, hey, I go to Hamlin, I'm a leader, I take the lead, we take the lead together. I think that's an amazing thing that I do not see at other campuses. So I think really expanding upon that, we take the lead and really dissecting how accessible leadership is on this campus is something that's extremely empowering and honestly revolutionary. I really admire Hamlin's ability to really plaster we take the lead because it's a bold thing to do, and I really want to live up to that thing, to that statement. So.
I wasn't sure if anyone else was answering, but my favorite thing about this campus is like how raw people are. Like coming in my first year, I was like, you're not telling anyone anything. Like, girl, you're gonna go to your classes, you're gonna do what you need to do, and that's it. But like meeting people and people just sharing their stories, sharing their journeys, and just being raw and emotional, and you thinking, this is week 2, what is happening? There's something wrong. But realizing that we all have similar struggles, we all have the same kind of fears, we have the same anxieties about certain classes, about certain things, and us all being able to, even though I'm not saying you share with every single person, but just finding different small clusters of communities on this campus and being able to share the same struggle and nobody judging you for it, nobody telling you that you should have fixed it from the beginning, but being told, hey, you're here now, you're present in this moment, and you still have time to fix it, whether it may be academically, personally, or professionally, but being able to develop in every way possible. Socially, I've made many great friends. Professionally, I've had leadership roles that have helped me pursue to get out of my shell, be less selfish, be more open. And academically, having classes where professors challenge you, where faculty members actually care about what you're doing, and if they see that something isn't right, allowing you the ability to fix it. I guess, honestly, I think the privileges that Hamlin has provided me, though there are certain things I don't like about it, I feel like coming in as a person who wasn't completely positive within themselves and didn't identify with things that I should have been open with and identified with early on. Hamlin was like this little bubble that was like, it's okay. You're like a little piece of bubble gum, you know? Like, you gotta pop out and you gotta do your own thing. So I think it was really nice. It was nice coming in as like a non-pop piece of bubble gum, and then life was like, it's okay. So, Zikram's answer.
Alrighty, if you have any further questions, HUSC will be holding an informal Q&A session next week during GA, so it's going to be Tuesday, 11:30 to 12:30. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break before I have our closing statements. See you.
Yeah.
Can we just do something? Do people want that? Because I'm okay with one word answer.
A couple of our people up here do have time restrictions and the meetings to go to at 8:30, so we want to be respectful of that and their time. One more, Andrew. Oh my.
In one word, what is your greatest strength? Everyone should answer, all 6 of them.
Oh, ambition.
Woo.
Self-assurance.
Independence. So both like,
silly.
I'd say risk taker.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to go straight to those statements, go for it. Everyone's agreement? Alright. What is the order? We have Liam and Ikram, then we're going to go to Rai and Veda, and then Emily Gray.
Well, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming again. My favorite part of Hamlin is this, the fact that, you know, throughout the night, probably more than 50 people took time out of their day to come and just to listen, to try to, you know, figure out who they're going to vote for, or just support someone that they already are going to vote for. And I think that that's the best part, because if you add up all the different people that are in an organization, or that attend a meeting, or that, you know, do more than just go to class and leave, I think that's really what makes Hamlin great. And I think that we can do more as HUSC to bring in more people that are involved, and bring in more people that take a stake in their own education, because like we've said a couple times, every one of us pays for the things that HUSC spends money on. And, you know, I don't think we should be, you know, conserving the money if we already had you pay for it. So I think we need to be spending our money and using it effectively, and not just wasting it, because with tuition going up every year, we shouldn't just be wasting our money. And you know, I hope that you'll choose us. We have ranked choice voting in our HUSC election, so you rank people 1, 2, 3, so you don't just have to choose one person. So.
I'm not gonna plug us like he did. I think the biggest thing for me wanting to be vice president of HUSC is that I've been encouraged, I've been molded, I've been trusted, I've been given opportunities on this campus, may it be academically, personally, and especially professionally, to take on projects, to take on roles that I know that if I wasn't in this specific space and didn't have the people who allowed me to have those positions, I wouldn't be able to be where I am now. So I'm about to plug. As the vice president of HUSC, I feel like I would be able to do the same, encourage people, mold people, and be able to, when I fail, step back and take a moment and be like, hey, I failed in this, but this won't happen again. To use past mistakes and to use the history that HUSC has and the disconnections we have to make better connections. Same as obviously Liam has stated and the rest of the people up here stated, because everyone up here is a great candidate. We all just want to strive to make change and be the people who are able to show that change. So thank you all for coming tonight.
I ditto them. Thank you all for being here. I think a lot of you are familiar to me, and that's because I value consistency and people who constantly show up, and you guys are those people, so thank you so much for being in this room. When we were thinking about our campaign, we thought about the sorts of leadership that we wanted to emulate and the kind of people that we wanted to be as our leaders. And so when we developed our slogan, what can we do for us, it was really about incorporating every single person and every single decision, and knowing that community and alliance is really the driving force in making sure that we built a campus for every student. And so much of what we want to do is about transparency, agency, visibility, and allyship, because this, being able to do those things is really what's going to make us truly Piper proud. And we'll do all those things by making sure that all org meetings and diversity summits are rooted in companionship and unity, and each person leaves with the sense of I'm not alone in this. Changing the flow of information so that every person is aware of policy and changes that affect us, and hopefully when that information comes out, y'all ain't surprised because we've been talking about it. And like Rai mentioned before, the words "we all do better when we all do better" is so serious, because it really is about once all of us thrive, we all thrive. So let's add every single person to the conversation. We include each student, students who are veterans, students of color, student athletes, student leaders, student workers, student organizations, and students who encompass marginalized spaces of all kinds, because once we build allyship and community, we can all be safe, and this is how we shine. So I ask you, what can we do for us? Oh, also, we have an event, February 28th, 4 to 6:30 in this room. It's Meet the Candidates. You get to meet us, just mingle, talk, ask your questions, but we wanted to create that visibility from the start, and so being able to come in and transparency and just getting to meet with us, we'll have flyers out and all that, and it's gonna be just pretty easy, walk in, mingle, leave, all that, but yeah, thank you guys.
I think every issue brought up tonight thus far by everyone who's here, by Peter, by Paige, by Sarah, all reflects one common value that I think all 6 of us embody, which is listening. It is so, so important for us. We recognized this early on. Like I said, we've been working on this campaign since the start of last semester. And really, it just started with us sitting in the Anderson Forum, talking about things, talking about what we wanted to do, talking about each other, you know, kind of putting together a friendship and a candidacy. And what we noticed right away is a lot of people just came and sat with us. It was really, really nice. And they came and sat with us, and we had a lot of amazing conversations. They were about everything from problems with family at home, to problems on campus, to problems with the administration, all sorts of things. And through that, we realized that there's a lot more voices on campus than just our own, and there's a lot more voices to listen to on campus than just our own. And once we started listening, I think we put together a very, very good platform based on that.
So, we're really lucky to know many different areas of campus, you know, through athletics, through first year programming, Hamlin Elementary across the street, safety and security, my position as a Peace Corps rep, it's allowed me to meet so many different students, so many different faculty, and so many different staff all together. The people who make up this campus are really just at the heart of everything. You know, it wouldn't exist without the people. So we have the incredible opportunity to continue to do that, and that's what we plan to do, regardless of not if we win the election, with the remaining time that we have here at Hamlin. And you know, this is all of our campuses, or all of our campus, and it's really about making it so that it's seen in your way, so that it lives, breathes your way, the way that you want it to be. So, yeah.
All right, thank you all for your time. I'd like to thank our candidates for coming out tonight to be here, and thank all of you.